I always cry when I watch that video. I've seen it so many times, and there's a number of them online. You can check out The Liberators on YouTube and see a number of ways that they bring people together to engage in new ways. They're notorious for getting on the subway and starting people singing songs together. And at the beginning, it's always everyone is so uncomfortable. But by the end, there are people dancing around on the subway car. So as they bring people into experiencing who they are as human beings and who those around them, other human beings, are as well. So I want to pick up today from where I left off last week, which was really with the question, where are we going and what is it we're going to do? And how do we figure that out? And once we do, how do we actually get there? And so my hope is that over the course of the next 4 weeks, we can explore that. And we're using Steve Marapoli's quote, even though, I don't really know who the guy is. But from his website, it says, Steve Maraboli has electrified, inspired, and entertained a wide range of audiences in over 30 countries with his unique style of bridging cutting-edge behavioral science, proven business methodologies, humor, unforgettable stories, unforgettable is actually in all caps, and social insights. He's a decorated military veteran. He has an organic social media reach of over 50 million people monthly. He's an international best-selling author. He's featured in a multi-award-winning documentary called Free Advice. I don't know whether he's on the good side of that or the bad side of that, but he's in the documentary. And he's won a UN award for philanthropy and serves in support of global literacy and education. He's referenced or quoted in over 4,000 books on the Google database, which is an incredible number of books. But the thing is, so I'm picking up his 4 pillars, right, that he says, which take us to success. And that is intent, vision, action, and clarity. And we're looking at intent today, vision next week, blah, blah, blah. And the point about following this list of things from Steve Maraboli is that I have no idea whether they are the appropriate things to do. I don't know whether those 4 things will take us to success. But over these next 4 weeks, we're going to explore them and see where they get us. And then after that, we'll test whether or not those places that we get to are places that are worth our energy, our time, our endeavor. And so we're going to dig in with intent today. And as I said, the next 3 are vision, action, and clarity. Craig Lounsbrough is one of the quotes that I had chosen to go along with this Sunday. And if we were in the space, that quote would be on a slide in front of you at the beginning of the service. You would read it. But the quote is, have we ever thought that being lost is our destination? And I found that an interesting quote for us to pick up on, particularly as we begin this journey, because last week, where I really ended this up was the fact that we're currently lost. We're currently in a place of deep transition and change. We've been connecting with one another through a medium that is very new to us. I mean, we've been at it now for 6 months, but it's still new. We haven't figured out how to engage everyone when we're together. We haven't figured out how to do that in the best possible way. Sometimes I have the screen on so I can see all of you, or I think I can see 49 of you at the same time, and then I have to switch screens. And sometimes I have it on so I'm just seeing the speaker. But no matter what it is, it's not the same thing as being in a room where we all laugh together, or someone is moved to tears and the rest of us have an empathic response and feel the tears welling up in our eyes as well. That is harder to accomplish on Zoom. And so the whole transition of moving from being owners of a building and holders of our own destiny in that, and being a community that gathers together and holds one another in community in a space, that being challenged and different now, we're kind of in that lost place that Craig Lounsbrough talks about. We're in a place where we don't know exactly even how to describe ourselves anymore. We have documents that we've written that say who we are, but they're being rewritten right now. And if you're not part of that conversation and want to be part of that conversation, send me an email and I will hook you up with Scott, who is running that with people from across the country. And I think John and Anne McKechnie are involved as well in Scotland. So even our statement of our vision of who we are, our values, and how it is we want to be together, not just in this place, but beyond in our own lives, that is in a little bit of a flux right now. And I don't imagine it will change very much, but the emphasis may be dramatically different from what it has been in the past little while. So we're moving into a new understanding of that. And we're finding ways that being together in this way, on video, and not in this space, has really added to our community in a new way. We have people connecting with us who would otherwise not be able to. And that stretch of our ministry, I invited people to think about that in the announcements and to look for the opportunity to come together and talk about how is West Hill present to those who aren't going to be able to come back into this room when we gather it together again. This is an interesting sort of nimbus I'm noticing, you know, like this, mostly girls in stained glass windows don't get that nimbus thing, but here at West Hill, sorry, that was just a little off message thing. But I just noticed it for the first time. Anyway, but if we gather together in this place and we do the things that we do here that we think are important, they may or may not be important to the people who are beyond this place, but who are connecting with us on Zoom. So how we stay connected is something that we've been looking at and how to do that. And Glenn Cockwell, in particular, has been looking at the tech of that and how to make it possible once we're back in this space together to also remain connected in a very significant way with those of you who are linking in with us from other places in the world and the country. The second quote I chose was from H.W. Leggett. The intention of an artist is the same as a scientist, to discover and reveal what is unsuspected but significant in life. So of course I did what I did with Steve Maraboli and what I did with Craig Lonsbrough, and I looked up who H.W. Leggett was. And I have absolutely no idea. Goodreads says he's never written any books, but Amazon says that he's written a book on Bertrand Russell. But when you go to the book that he's written on Bertrand Russell on Amazon, it's a book about a completely different person. So I had to go to bookfinder.com, which is my go-to place if I'm looking for a rare book or I can't find something. And sure enough, he wrote a book on Bertrand Russell that was published in 1950, which gives you an idea of when it was that he was writing. But what he's saying in the quote, which I think is appropriate for us at West Hill right now, is that the intention, you know, what it is we're wanting to identify today, what is our intention as a community? What do we intend to do and why? And why do we even come together as a community? What is our intention for that? The intention is to discover and reveal what is unsuspected but significant in life. If we go through life without being attentive to those things, we may get to our deathbeds with that common refrain, which we hear people who have studied this thing say that they wish that they had spent more time living their life instead of doing what others expected them to, whether that was work or whether that was family or whatever that was. They didn't actually get to know themselves until it was too late. On the way in, Scott and I were talking about his mom and remembering some of the things that she did. And I said, you know, we never get to know our parents until it's too late, right? We find out about them late in life, right? Not that I really want my children to know much about me, but, and you may not want your children to know much about you either. But there is so much in life that is undiscovered that we don't know or understand. And if we are, as a community, wanting to figure out who we want to be, then we need to sort of have a handle on that. Like, what is it that if we were to know it was important to the people who gather with us, to the people around them, to their connections and family members, to the world? We talk about ourselves, others, and the planet. If we were to discover things that we currently don't know now, how would that impact the way we want to be in the world, the way we want to be as a community, the way we want to be as individuals, the way we want to be in our relationships with others? So I think that that's a beautiful quote, that there are things that have yet to be discovered that can reveal things that we don't expect, but have a very significant impact in our lives, and can if we are to come to understand that. So our journey and the fact that we're on it and that we are intentional about being on it is an important piece. I loved the video from the Liberators, and I love watching a number of their videos. And if you can watch 3 of them without crying, send me an email and I'll send you to therapy or something. They're powerful because they challenge us to do things that we wouldn't normally do. And that is connect with our human family, with the people around us. And even those in our own families with whom we live, we often don't spend time just looking into their eyes, just actually seeing them. We're doing stuff, we're going places together, we're having conversations, we're eating, we're across the table from each other, but we don't spend time just looking at one another, seeing one another. And the challenge of that is huge. I'm going to read from their website. We're a global family of people ready to actively be a part of the change we'd like to see in the world. Isn't that something that sounds like West Hill? Be the change you want to see in the world. Instead of complaining about what's wrong with the system, we use our skills, intelligence, gifts, and abilities to create positive experiences for the world to actively participate in making today and tomorrow's future more sustainable and harmonious. How do we liberate? We create participatory public and private events that involve and encourage people of all ages and backgrounds to participate in acts of unconditional kindness, dance, and human connection. We record each of our public actions with the intention to then inspire people from all over the world to create their own similar unified participatory actions. We do not force. We simply give rise to a new opportunity. Why do we liberate? We are here to lead by example, to allow the people of planet Earth to see that we are brothers and sisters of the same human race, traveling together on this Earth ship we collectively call home. Our vision for the future, we aim to coordinate, record, and distribute monthly global acts of freedom, which reconnect humanity with their innate interconnected power. Like, who wouldn't want to do that? It's an amazing thing to do. And of course, it was something that just happened absolutely accidentally. You know, he decided one day to do something, and then it just grew from there into this global movement. So today, those are the intentions of the Liberators, what they intend to do with the work that they do. And today I want to talk about our intent and what it is that we at West Hill want to do. So of course, the first thing I did was go to Google to do the dictionary thing. And as much as I would like to use Oxford English Dictionary, it being our heritage, they had some I think some maybe unexpected consequences of their lack of intention to go digital. So you can't actually find the Oxford English Dictionary online, at least not easily. So I ended up going to Merriam-Webster. The Oxford English Dictionary, and I was going to bring this book today, but the Oxford Children's Dictionary last year, or a couple of years ago, took out a number of words because there's only so many words they can put in, and they had to put in a bunch of new words related to the new digital world that we're in, words that didn't exist before, like app and things like that. So those words were going in the dictionary, and they took out a series of words that were nature-based. Lark is one of them. Bluebells is another one. And there is an exquisitely beautiful book that has been written by artists who wanted to bring those words to our notice. And so they have printed this gorgeous book called Lost Words, and it's about those words that have been taken out of the Oxford Children's Dictionary. But for lack of the Oxford English Dictionary online, I turned to Merriam-Webster, and here is the definition for intent. A usually clearly formulated or planned intention, otherwise known as an aim. The director's intent is the example. 2A, the act or fact of intending. Purpose, so especially the design or purpose to commit a wrongful or criminal act, admitted wounding him with intent, right? So it's with purpose. My purpose was to do this. Then the state of mind with which an act is done. Volition, I did it, this was my intent, and that's how it came to be. Not quite so criminal. And then 3A is meaning and significance, the meaning of something, the intent, the significance of something, its intent, and connotation. So if we're talking about aim, I mean, what is it that we're aiming for? What is it that we want to get across to our neighbors or participants or the world even? We talk again about self, others, and the planet. So when we're talking about what our intent as a congregation is, intent as a group of people who come together regularly to support one another, to be challenged by one another, to learn and engage and pull one another into places that, previously were unrevealed, but have, a significant something to teach us, according to the Leggett quote. Our ability to identify what that is and say what it is that we're aiming for is a piece that we need to do during this time. We have to figure out what it is we're aiming for. We have documents that tell us how we want to be with one another. We have a mission statement, which I'm going to read later, which has a general understanding of what it is that we want to do. But we don't have like a written down plan of what our aim is. What are we aiming to do? When it comes to purpose, if we're talking about, if we had an intent that was as fixed as a criminal intent is fixed, would that make it better or worse? Well, it would make it better because there's a clarity to that, right? There, someone with criminal intent has a real clarity and focus on what exactly it is that they want to do. But that criminal intent is usually so focused that it doesn't take in information from around it. It doesn't change its mind. It doesn't change its focus. It just keeps going. And so as a community, our intent, once we have it, we don't want it to have that same blindness that criminal intent would have. We want it to be somewhat fluid so that we can perhaps learn from it. A volition is a focus that drives what it is that we do. And I was thinking of it as a scatter diagram, not a scatter diagram. What drives what we do is, we have all of these things that we want to do, but they'll fall in different places based on the energy we have at a particular time, or where we are in the history of the congregation, where you are in your relationship with the history of the congregation. So rather than it being, a straight line, this is where we're going, we could end up with all kinds of points that head off in that general direction, but might not be able to be mapped as something particular and something specific. Meaning and significance, again, that comes down to what does being part of this community mean to me personally? How does it invite me to engage in my personal relationships, work, colleagues, family, whatever those neighbors, whatever your personal relationships are? And how does it challenge me to live in the world beyond, that world which can be defined as the global population, or the biosphere, or the world, or the scientific inquiry. We could describe our world, the world that consumes us personally, in a variety of different ways, and what I would identify as mine may not be what you identify as yours, or the next person's, so that we have a very rich and diverse understanding of what that meaning and significance would be if we brought all of our different understandings together. And here's where I want to read the mission statement that West Hill has had for many years, but I can't tell you exactly how many. Moved by a reverence for life, to pursue justice for all, we inspire one another to seek truth, live fully, care deeply, and make a difference. Now, if I was going to give each of you, say I gave you a minute and a half, and I wanted you to write down, what does pursuing justice mean to you? What does justice mean to you? How do you experience inspiration? Where does that come from? If you're seeking truth, what is it you're after? And how do you do that? And living fully for you, what does that mean? What does it mean to care deeply? What would you care about? And how do you want to make a difference? That tapestry would be so impressive simply because we each come with a different heart. We each come with a different context. We each come with a different history. And so the ways that we would want to implement and live out that mission statement are so diverse as to be as rich as these tapestries that are behind me right now. Just incredibly diverse and beautiful. And so how do we take all of that and bring it into a single cohesive intent for West Hill United Church, right? Or is our intent really to help you figure out what your intent is? You know, you see where we're going with this? Total confusion, perhaps. But perhaps some of the things that we have to get by the end of this fourth pillar, clarity, perhaps we will be able to find some clarity when we get there. The second reading from Charles Glassman, I wanted to connect to that as well. The inspiration that he sent out to his subscribers started in 2008, and he sent it out for many years before he collected them into a book. He's a physician, and he called the newsletter Brain Drain, and I'm not sure if it was just, you know, his intellectual dump at the end of the day. You know, what do I have to get out of my brain today that would be helpful, that expresses what I've learned, that puts some of my experience down on paper or sends it out? And so he puts this stuff together and sends it out, and eventually it gets put into a book. But he has this alternate fourfold path to success. And success has yet to be defined. And I'm sure that just like all the other things, we would have different ideas of what success means. But he has 4 different things that lead to success as well. And the first one is purpose, passion, perseverance, and good intentions. So those are the 4 that he has: purpose, passion, perseverance, and good intentions. And then he says you'll be assured that you can arrive in a meaningful place. Meaningful place doesn't mean the right place, it's just a place that's filled with meaning. So I was thinking as I was preparing today, Scott has often talked about leadership and those people who make good leaders. There are people who are leaders who are not particularly competent, and they're not particularly confident, right? They've been put into a leadership role. They haven't found their, you know, zen as a leader, and they aren't really sure what they're doing, right? The Peter principle used to be something some of you may have heard long ago, where people would be, you know, promoted to the level of their incompetence, right? You do really, really well at this level, and someone goes, oh, they need to be this, and they put them up there, but they don't know how to be up there, and they're not sure about that, so they're not, anyway. It's a fail-fail situation. And then there are competent leaders who absolutely know their stuff. They have everything that they need to do the job, except the confidence to do it well. And so they don't evolve the organization in the way that they could, because they simply don't have the chutzpah, the confidence in their own ability to do it, to lay out the strategy and the opportunities and to make things work in a way that could be brilliant if only they had the courage to do it. The best leader is one who is competent and confident. They know what they're doing. They know what needs to be done. They get up, they tell their people or their family or whoever it is what it is that needs to be done, and then it happens. We were talking about Scott's mom on the way in, as I mentioned, and we were talking about how she always knew what needed to be done. It wasn't always received well, but she knew what needed to be done, and then she would make it happen in whatever way she could, and she would get people around her to make that happen too. She was a competent, confident leader, though if you had asked her, she wouldn't have said she was a leader at all. And then there's the ones that we've all run into who are incredibly confident in their abilities, but they're totally incompetent. We all know them. They're a sad story when it gets told at the end of the day, because they head off in a direction and they know nothing about where they're going, but they are so confident that they take everyone with them. Some of that might be happening south of the border right now, where the incompetent but confident leader has the reins. So the reason I brought all that to the fore is because one of the things that Glassman does is he puts the good intentions at the very end of his list, right? He puts at the very beginning of his list purpose, right? Purposeful, we can be purposeful, right? And we can have passion and we can be in for the long haul. But if we don't know what we intend to bring about, then we could be completely off track and head off in a direction that we really don't want to be in. And that would be a big challenge. The second half of Glassman's reading, however, is that our natural human instinct is to fight or flee that which we perceive to be dangerous. And that's the incompetent, confident leader. If you run into that person, flee quickly. Although our instinct, all those, fight, flight, freeze, can't remember the other one, that has evolved as a way to protect us. It's also very limiting to our growth. We are comfortable in the way that we do things. We know when something comes along that is a little uncomfortable and we just reject it. We aren't really keen on doing that because it's going to take so much, it's going to be so hard, I'm going to have to do this differently. I'm listening to Mel talk about her grandson's forest school, and stretching himself into a new area that's going to require relations with the indigenous communities close to him. How many people would have gone, I'd love to do that, but I just don't know much about those people, and I'll just do the teepee myself. Or let's not do the teepee at all. It'll be too difficult, right? We come across opportunities and ideas and possibilities that may unfold naturally or may come to us because someone comes and says, hey, I want to buy your building and you get to stay, but we want to run a kids thing out of here. And we can embrace that or we can flee, right? And we're hardwired to do some of those things that will protect us and to do them more instinctively than to try something new. So we have to be very, very careful about that. So some of the ways that Glassman suggests we pull ourselves beyond that is to expect the unexpected. If we're sort of loose on our feet and something's coming at us that we aren't really expecting, how do we respond to that, right? Do we lean in? Do we at least ask a few questions? I think that as we talk about what our intent is as a congregation, not just here in Scarborough, but in our scattered community around the world, what is the intent of our being a community, locally and distributed? How do we want to be? And putting that together, we're going to have to stretch and expect the unexpected. Somebody's going to say, well, I'd like us to blah, blah, blah. And we're going to go blah, blah, blah. And then we're going to start asking questions, because that's the only way we're going to pull ourselves beyond the fight or flight mode of being and about what it is that the possibilities are. So expecting the unexpected. Make the unfamiliar familiar. Bring people close. If you don't know them, bring them close. Get to know them. Find out who they are, what it is they want to do. What goes on in this community of Scarborough around us? Do we really know? I mean, lots of you have lived here for many, many years, but how many of us have really stepped outside of the norms of our relationship with the community to see how it has evolved and changed over time. How many new friends have we developed over the course of the past 5 years, the past 3 years, the past 2 years? Have we made a new friend in the last couple of months? We have to expect the unexpected and see in those around us the possibility for becoming known, which has jumped into make the unknown known. Come to know the people that you run into regularly. Come to know what the concerns of the community are. Come to know who it is that goes to church down the street or to the mosque on the opposite corner. Get to know those people. Make the unknown known. And once we figure that kind of stuff out, it'll be that much easier to figure out how, what we should identify as our intentions. Make the uncomfortable comfortable. I'm not really great at that. The stuff that makes me uncomfortable. And I just don't want to go there, particularly if it comes to, you know, a conversation on a topic that I have strong feelings on, or a topic that I don't know anything about. So, you know, I'm just uncomfortable. So I just kind of shut down and smile a lot. I might nod my head. But what I'm thinking is anybody's guess, right? We have to find ways to be comfortable in those situations that stretch us so that we can engage. And then the last one is believe the unbelievable. And I think you all know what I feel about that one. So we'll just skip that one. But there are things that we can believe that we can do that we once thought were unbelievable. So we will give it that. So Lonsbrough, who was one of the quotes, talks about being lost being the destination. And I think that we can be lost for good, not for bad, but for good. We have less financial strain right now in this lost period of time. It's different because we no longer have the serious financial constraints that we had. Anybody who's responsible for any of the financial picture of the congregation is freaking out hearing me say that, because no, we're not out of the woods. We still have challenges going forward, but that expectation that we would be closing our doors mid next year or at the end of next year, that expectation is gone. We have these new participants from around the world that we have been able to engage with because of COVID and because of Zoom. And those engagements will invite us to new ways of understanding ourselves as we go through this process. We have conversations that are taking place throughout the week, which are new, but are taking place with groups of people that didn't normally come together intentionally on a regular basis before. And these conversations about the intent of the congregation and where we want to be, those will bring a new group of people together. And the second conversation, which takes place about the distributed community, that will be another conversation that will take place. So we're having conversations, we're coming together, we're engaging more in some ways than we ever did before, even though we're separated so much. We have a community that I hope has been given the permission to share its ideas. I believe that the ideas that pop into your head, wherever that happens most, whether it's when you're gardening or whether you're standing in the grocery store lineup or whether you're in the proverbial shower, those ideas that pop into your head, I want you to write them down, because when you get into a conversation, I want them to come out. I want you to share them. We need you to share them, right? And that is, we're lost, right? We're lost in this time of not knowing, but we can be lost for good, right? And your ideas are part of that for good piece. And right now, unlike many other times, we can almost literally say that the sky is the limit. There are so few limitations on what West Hill can be right now, on how we can reach a community that's much larger than what we have been, how we can influence hearts and relationships far beyond, you know, the brick walls that have contained this physical local community. We have the ideas that are going to come forth from all over the world about who we could be and what we could do. And that is an incredible piece of being lost right now. It's a real gift that we have been given in this lost time. So as I close, I want to draw us back to these things that I've mentioned several times, our relationships with ourselves, others, and the planet. And I want to start with the planet. As the fires have raged on the West Coast, more and more people have recognized that what has been said about climate change and the fragility of the planet over the last 50 years is crucial to our survival. Scott and I are reading a book called Lazy Point, which was written in 2008 and poignantly talks about what's being lost. A beautiful, beautiful book. But it's 12 years old, and so much has disappeared even since then. So as we think about what our intent as a community is, we have to think about the future of the planet and the sustainability of the communities in which we live. Watching people reorient their lives and how they do that with a view to the sustainability of the planet. Then when we talk about others, we shift our commitment to others during this time because we've become acutely aware of what it means to be separated, to be alone, many of you, without a regular contact, without partners that you have held close and who have, helped temper your days and bring you beauty and are no longer with you. The families that reached out and united and laughed and shared significant holidays. The opportunities to just be home alone with your own kids or your own partner. Those things have taken on a new understanding in this COVID time. And as we think about our intentions for the future, we need to think not just of the way that we've been with others in the past, but the way others are being with others and how we are being with them now and can in the future. And then, of course, it gets down to our relationship with ourselves. How do we want to be with ourselves? How do you want to be with you? And how can West Hill form an intention that helps you do that helps you be that helps you challenge that and shift and change it going forward? We have a lot to do. We're not clear on exactly what it's going to be, but we have a lot to do. And we have many, many conversations to have that are going to help us figure that out. I'm excited about the process. I'm excited about the conversations. I'm excited about the opportunity. And I'm hoping that we will open ourselves to the change that might come about and the opportunities that might fall at our feet or be birthed in our hearts and our conversations. And as we come together next week to talk about vision, be bold about that. Think about that during this coming week. What would you envision for yourself, for others, for the planet? And how can you see West Hill helping us get there? Thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Peter, who's going to share the next song, which is a Playing for Change video, meaning that it's been created by people around the world, and it's called Everyday People, a song that I'm sure many of you know.